So I asked you a little while back, I said, if you could do anything here, what would you do? So what would you really want to do? And you came back and said that you would like to direct a new adaptation of a classic that was written by Deb Norton here.
That's right.
That's pretty, I've said yes. Did I say yes instantly?
Yeah, you did.
Did it get out quicker than you actually finished the sentence? Or?
Yeah, I had about 5 other things that I was going to suggest as well.
And yes.
That was the first one that came to mind. Yeah, that's exciting to me because I've done a lot of Greek theater, both tragedies and comedies, in various adapted forms. Everything from, sort of 5-person Odysseus's journey to a big production of The Birds. But I've never really grappled from the beginning with one of the myths. And I knew from our conversations that Deb was interested in such things. And again, I've heard from so many people about your work as a writer that it struck me that that could be a marvelous opportunity for me to dig into something with you. And having started that process, I'm loving it.
Yeah. Well, that, for me, building something from the ground up collaboratively, there's nothing I'd rather do. And working, with finding people that you click with and work well with, and using that kinetic relationship to create something new and exciting is really what the place is about, and really kind of what Chris and I have invested mostly in. New work is very much what the theater is grounded in, developing new work. For me, myth is one of the most exciting things to work with because it's based in archetype and tells some of the most essential stories about being human. It's really myth is our manual for life and for living and for relationship and for the subconscious and for pretty much everything we need to know. It's all there. It's all been put down long before we got here. And what it does is it hooks human beings up from here back to the beginning of human beings, and you suddenly have a context for your existence. Isolation disappears and you realize, oh, my story is the same story that people have been living for centuries.
Well, the beauty of myth for me is that, as you say, it puts you in contact with those deeper and older realities. But for me, it also puts me in contact with my daily life. I mean, I walk my dog every morning right now, and I'm very aware of the seasonal change that's taking place. And so many of the myths, like the Persephone myth that we're dealing with, have to do with this natural cycle of birth, life, death, rebirth. And to connect with that without the encumbrances or constraints of organized religion or any sort of conceptual framework, but to be able to interweave it with your daily life and your reading and your experience and the stories you've heard, the books you've read, that for me gives an enormous density to the material and enables a sort of layering of meaning and for actions to come out of something in the theater then, that even though they're immediate, they have all sorts of metaphorical ramifications. And that, for me, is pretty yeasty stuff.
Yeah. I think the Persephone myth has been especially resonant for me lately because of this notion of the underworld journey, and we really are in a time of trying to wipe out the gray areas and stick with black and white. Things are very polarized in our time, and not a lot of attention is given to that space between, that space where things are processed, where things are not sure-footed, where we don't know and have to sit and let things break down. So that underworld place, which could be, it could be a waiting place, it could be depression or grief. Those spaces in which we don't know what the outcome is going to be, But we,
And we don't expect to go there. That's
no,
one of the things I like about Persephone is that she's abducted.
that's right.
You know, and we do. We get abducted. We
We
get
get
wrenched into situations
just
or
taken down.
states of being knocked out.
Dragged under.
Yeah, dragged under, literally.
Yeah. And
we're
we
not
resent
always
it.
ready for
Yeah,
it. Of course we
and-
resent it.
And I think there's a real, stigma that's developing against being in that, that space, that
Yeah, get
somehow
over it, people
we
say,
should
right?
heroically,
Yeah.
somehow we should heroically be able to prevent that, resist it, or immediately overcome it, deal with it, and it, rather than this, what this myth is suggesting, which is that if we allow for the fact that that is a part of life, there is, when we exit that space, it's very likely that we will exit transformed, and with new understanding, and with a new connection to life, and spring will be possible. A friend of mine had this. She related depression to composting an avocado pit. That she had been just enraged and frustrated by this, the avocado pits that wouldn't break down in her compost bin, so that every time she tried to harvest, there'd be these big hunks of things that, that she'd have to pick out. And then she realized, that that's exactly what it feels like to be wrestling with a big life problem that won't break down as fast as we want it to, so that we can hurry up and put it on the flowers and get the seeds to sprout, because that's where we want to get. So it takes as long as it takes.